Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy pre-release day to me. Just reminder, I did a video, but this will release tomorrow on January 11th. If you did the pre-order, you'll have it in your library at midnight is what I'm told. If you pre-order this paperback signed through me, I'll be sending the invoices out for that soon. So watch your emails, please. And if you just want a paperback and you don't care if I sign it or not, it will be live on Amazon tomorrow, and I will be sending reminders out about that. Of course, I'll be telling you guys that in the morning. So, I wanted to hop on here. It has been bananas all weekend, and this morning has been really hectic, but I wanted to jump on and just, again, talk about this new book a little bit, and also talk a little bit about what I'm working on now. And a good reminder to everybody to never say never, because I did something in the book that, and the thing is I always say these are things that I wouldn't do, but I also say I never say never though. So when I say something, unless I say ever, it's not really hard and fast. It's just something I don't plan to do. And I think I had followed it up a few times with, for now, and we'll see. But yeah, the news story took a weird turn yesterday when I was writing. Also, just wanted to hop on and say, with the holidays, the kids were out of school. My husband actually took a few days off of work. So having everybody home and dealing with holiday stuff, I did not get any kind of writing done that I had actually planned. Like in my brain, the story I'm working on now would have already been done. Because I'm a pretty fast writer when I get going. That's the thing, when I get going. Love Again, I wrote Love Again in 3 weeks from front to back. Now, I had to edit it a bunch, but I got the whole first draft done in 3 weeks of that book. And I still managed to, feed the humans that live here with me and get them to their extracurricular activities and all of that stuff. Plus, I had kind of a loose deadline for myself because I have beta readers and I was about to go on vacation. And in my brain, I really wanted to get that story done before I went on vacation with my family so that while I was vacationing at the beach, somebody else was going to be looking at the story and going through the beta read for me, So I still felt like I was being productive, even though I wasn't writing at that time. I will say this though, I had sent, most of my betas used to get a Word document, but then I ran across an author on here that did me a huge favor, because one of my beta readers for that book ended up having her baby like a month early, right before I went on vacation. She had to go to the hospital, and she said like in 2 days they were gonna probably do a C-section. So I obviously couldn't expect her to stop dealing with her life and read my book, but I like to have an odd number of beta readers so that I can like have a tiebreaker if there's a consistent theme that people have an issue with, which I haven't really had a problem with that. In this book, I did have a couple of people mention some stuff, and there was a lot of consistency with the beta readers, and I changed those things, and then the last few beta readers I had, nobody brought it up, so I feel like I addressed it appropriately. But yeah, so I like to have an odd number of beta readers for that reason, so that if there is something that, the majority of people are having an issue with, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should take a look at that. But I sent it to her in a Google Doc. She asked me to send it to her in a Google Doc because that was her favorite. And I was like, listen, I'll send it to you via Pigeon Messenger because you're helping me. I don't care how you want it. So I popped it into a Google Doc for her. And then I realized the gloriousness of shared Google Docs, because as she was making edits, I was getting notifications. And it was like that instant gratification to see what she was doing, because all of her changes were fantastic. All of her notes were helpful. She left funny little things in there, and like if something just like if I obviously left out a word or like the sentence it as a whole just didn't make sense, like she would just type out what with a question mark, like what is this supposed to mean? I was hysterically laughing half the time looking it over, so it was funny for sure. Hold on, I have a little thing that's driving. Okay, I can't have the notifications up there. My squirrels go crazy, and I just want to keep looking at them, so I have to swipe them away. So yeah, so I do enjoy using Google Docs for my beta readers now because I like to stalk what they're doing. I like to be able to see what they're doing. I'll jump in there if I can and just watch the little cursor go. So that one I had a deadline for myself basically, and I stuck to it. So that's how I got that one done in 3 weeks. But yeah, the holidays really messed me up. Good morning. How are you? But the holidays, yeah, I totally total lies to myself thinking I could actually get some words in, like good words, you know? So anyway, the kids went back to school last Tuesday, so not even a week, you know, and because they had Monday off still for some reason. But, so they finally went back to school, but even in the last week, between just getting back into the swing of things and getting back on schedule, my kids have so many extracurricular activities, and they started back on Tuesday. So Tuesday, it was immediately school for my son, and then he had indoor percussion in the evening. Wednesday, my daughter has basketball practice. Thursday, my kid has indoor percussion in the evening. So it's a lot of driving and stuff going on in the evenings and cooking dinner. My husband works later, so all of these little shenanigans are up to me to handle. And I like cooking, so that it's not a fall to me thing. That's just what I like to do. He's a great cook, and if he's home, he likes to cook. But he's just never here, and I don't want to eat at 10 o'clock at night, so I cook so that we can eat at a decent time. But I'm such a creature of habit, so for my schedule to have been off for 2 weeks and a couple of days, it really screwed me up. So over the weekend, and last week, I sat down and I got a few words in a couple of nights once I got home from picking up the kids from stuff. My cat is watching me with my hands. If my whole contraption falls, that means the cat has knocked down my ring light setup here. But I got a few words in, but I didn't, I could never get into a good rhythm and really pound out some words. And this weekend, we had some stuff going on Saturday. My kid had all day practice on Saturday, and my other kid had basketball, and then my husband wanted to go out to lunch since we were out already. So when I got home though, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I am writing words. I am not watching television. I am not going to sit on TikTok for hours, which I looked at it. I did. But I logged back into one of my Discord groups and started doing some sprints. And once I started doing the sprints, it just started flowing again, thank God. So then yesterday, I did a few in the morning, but I had some other stuff going on, and in true Southern fashion, we went to my mom's house yesterday for Sunday dinner because that's what we do every Sunday. But then when I got home and the kids did their bath routine and stuff, I sat down again for a couple of hours, I guess, and got some more sprints in. So over the weekend, I feel like I got 5,000 or 6,000 over the whole weekend, which even just saying that sounds bad, because for me, 3,000 in a day is a good average when I have all that stuff going on. Because I'm a fast writer. I can type really fast. I type much faster than I talk and much faster than my brain goes. But, so that's not a flex. And plus, sometimes it doesn't even make sense, but, usually 3,000 to 5,000 is a good average a day for me. 5 is the days that I don't have so much crap with the kids to do. Because once you get into a rhythm, if you have to stop and go drive somewhere and pick somebody up or drop them off or whatever, it breaks that thought process a little bit. So then even when you go back to it, it takes a minute to kind of warm back up, I guess. But so last night I got some good words in. And the funny thing, and I've talked about this before when I brought up the steamy versus spicy conversation. And I mean, yeah, 3,000 is good. Like, it's nothing to scoff at, for sure. It's just, for me, it's not my best. You know what I mean? And I never try to compete with anybody else. I'm always competing with me. Like, I always want to top whatever I've done. Now, if I could just put that kind of energy into losing weight, like, I'd be unstoppable. But as far as other stuff, I constantly want to beat myself. So 3,000 is good. It's just not my best time, you know, especially for the amount of time. That's the thing, for the amount of time that I made my butt stay in the chair. That's what made it not, because like for the amount of time I had available on like Saturday afternoon between when we got home from lunch and when I had to pick up my son, I could have gotten, like, if I really buckled down and not looked at freaking TikTok a few times, I probably could have gotten at least 7,000 words in. Like, a good Saturday when I don't have to go anywhere or do anything, I can get 10,000 words in. Do they always make sense? No. Is there a lot of editing? Yes. But I still am getting the meat out. Like, my biggest thing, what works for me is to get the story out, just get the whole story out, and then go back and fix it afterwards. Like, I don't do the self-editing as I go. I will read back, like, the chapter that I left off of, especially, like, right now, the story I'm doing is a dual point of view. So I'm like, what just happened? So when I get to writing in a little while, I'm going to go back, reread the good scene. Oh, I left off on such a good scene to pick up to. Oh, geez. So I have to reread that scene so that I can get the continuity going. Because that's one thing that apparently I'm decent at. You know, everybody has strengths and weaknesses in their writing, right? So I've been told that my character development is decent, but my continuity is good. So, like, the story flows really smoothly together. And that's how people can sit down and, you know, read straight through. Like, I've had so many people tell me they read my book in a day, which that's like, you get excited when you hear that, because my main objective is to write like easy, quick reads that are fun and light and don't break your brain, you know, and maybe give you some feelies. But then, like, also have this moment of, wow, I worked on that for months and they read it in 12 hours. You know, like, it's, so you're kind of like, well, dang, but it is exciting too, because then it's like, okay, well, they read it straight through, so that's good. That is the best skill to have. I don't like books that feel. Yeah, so, and that's why I go back and I just try to make sure that it's flowing smoothly, especially chapter to chapter. Even, so 2 of my books, one that'll be out tomorrow, it's single point of view. And the single point of view is a little bit easier to do that with, I think. Like, Love Again was single point of view, and it very, very smooth, very smooth. The dual point of view is a little bit harder. I think I'm doing a better job in the one I'm working on right now than I did with Served. But a lot of people liked Served, and I love Served. The thing is that was the first book that I published, so it was almost like my baseline book. They're like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that they're not things that I could have improved, you know, but the story's out there and people seem to like it. But I did take some things that I learned from that process, and I'm definitely doing better with my current whip with a dual point of view. Pacing is important to me, and that's why I really try to take time to go back through. Like I said, I'll read the chapter I left off on, just so that then I feel like I'm getting that thought process back and I can start where I left off, so it makes sense, even if it's like the next day, because, you know, you end a chapter sometimes, and like, I'm writing a romance, so like last night I ended up, and it was nighttime, she was, drifting off to sleep or whatever. So the beginning of this chapter will be the next morning. So, but I want to make sure that it still makes sense when you're reading it from chapter to chapter. And I find I do the best editing once the whole story is out, though. Your first was 7 point of views. Yeah, okay. So, Harker, Rebecca, in her Etheria's Earth collection, it's third person, multiple points of view. And the one I just finished, I think it was book 4? The Reluctant Savior? She had so much side character action. So she always has multiple points of view, not just the 2 main love interests, but there's always all of these other, moving parts, with all these people that matter to the storyline. But in this one, she really had so many like side things going on, which were for characters that you've known from the beginning of the series. And I was like, oh yes, thank God, finally for the, so it was really cool. And I did, like, after I finished it, I was sitting there thinking, God, her outlines must be intense. And I don't outline crap. I'm a pantser, so I don't know that I could ever do that. Our first series has no side characters. So listen, my writing is not for everybody. My books are not for everybody. Even people who like romance may not like me. I have my own style. And like a couple of authors that I really love, they're much spicier than I am. But that's my voice, But that brings up an excellent point. So I was mentioning before, there were certain things that I kept saying, like, for now, I really don't, like, there's certain C words that I haven't used in any of my books so far. And I kept saying I wasn't really comfortable using them, not because I'm afraid to say them, because I will totally say cock right now, okay? But something about putting it in my book, I had it in my head that the Zon would, like, throw me into this dungeon for certain words that I used, and then that was just so that was when I was learning all of this stuff, and I think I was getting a lot of like weird information from not the most reliable sources, maybe. And I definitely have learned, over the last year, especially on Book Talk, that like there's a lot of people that say a lot of things, but most of them really don't know what they're talking about, which makes it scary for baby authors because we're kind of flailing around trying to, take bits and pieces of what we're hearing and put it into action. Now, and I did do a bunch of like conferences and stuff online because a lot of the 20 books to 50K, they put all of their stuff up on YouTube this year. And then I paid to do a few conventions, and they were all virtual because of COVID. So I didn't have to leave my house. I just sat here in my little office all day. Some of them were like 2 days, but, and they were expensive, but it was an investment. And my husband actually fronted the money for that. But it was good learning experience. See, and I've never done the master classes, but I like conferences and conventions and stuff because you get like little bits and pieces of different things. And a lot of times they gear their stuff towards things that are relevant right now. So that's why I love doing those things every year. It's good to stay up with those things, I think, but it's an investment. There are some that are low cost, and there are some, so the 20 books to 50K, it was a hefty fee to actually go to Vegas, which I would have loved to, but I mean, just, I don't have money for a plane ticket and a hotel room, much less the fee to actually go. But they put the whole conference on their YouTube channel, so you can just go watch it, like the whole thing. The thing is when you go in person, the information soaks in better for a lot of people. But if you're really if you're disciplined enough to want to learn the things, you will sit your ass in your chair and watch the YouTube videos if you care. Because I don't know, I can ask 5 different people I know that are reliable sources, like author friends that I've made, and I will get 5 different answers on something. So I like going to the conferences and conventions and stuff just so that I'm getting kind of consistent information. Now, I still have like a small little circle of author friends that have been super kind and super helpful, and even if they give me some weird information, I still know the information they're giving me is coming from a place of wanting to help me. But, you got to weed through that just like anybody else, just like friends in real life that, you meet in person. You have to weed people out and understand who's for you and who's hanging around to watch you fail. You know what I mean? And I think I have found a really great group of people that really want to see me succeed. But I don't want to bug them. Like, these people are also writing. A couple of them write full time. And, if you write full time and that's your only income, like, if you don't write, you don't eat. You know what I mean? If you don't do your marketing, you don't get paid. Like, so I don't want to be in somebody's inbox constantly asking dumb baby author questions, especially when I know there's resources out there that I can go to. There's tons of books out there. There's tons of Facebook groups out there. But yeah, the conventions are always, they're like a wealth of information all at once. And you still get the energy online. I work still, Sam. I would love to only write. That would be really freaking cool. I work full time, and then I have all the kids and, shenanigans. So I stay pretty busy, which my mother-in-law the other day, I guess, Amazon, listen, I am not scared of my smuts, but my mother-in-law is still my mother-in-law, okay? She is a mother-in-law. Now, she does not live here. And she's a very lovely lady. She's also a very uppity lady. So I did not tell her I was publishing any books. My own mom, though, I paraded the book straight to my mom, and she loved it. And I knew she would, though, because she reads that kind of stuff anyway. My mom is the one who told me that if somebody says they don't read smut, they're lying, and when they die, the family's going to find a whole box of it in the back of the closet hidden under some scarves, So I knew my mom would be cool. And she was so proud. And the reason I don't use a pen name is because my mom, bless her, mom said, you can't use a pen name because my friends will never believe that my daughter is an author. Like, it has to be your name. Like, how am I supposed to explain if it has a different name on the book? They're never going to believe me. And I was like, does it matter? And it mattered to her, apparently, which is cool because she's really proud of me, So even my dad's going around telling all of his friends that his daughter wrote a sex book. So, and I was like, that's not really what we call it. It's romance. Let's not call it a sex book. That makes it sound like a manual or something, which I guess some people think that they are. But I'm publishing cleaner stuff. Yeah. See, everybody thinks I'm lying. That is okay. But I'm married. So my husband's last name is Berry. So I wasn't born April Berry. But yeah, I mean, is that not the perfect freaking name for a romance author? Or the perfect name for a stripper? I used to have people tell me that all the time. They were like, that sounds like a stripper name. And I was like, I guess, April Strawberry. I don't know. But yeah, so I've had people ask me a lot. Even before I was publishing books, people would ask me if that's my real name. And I was like, that's such a weird question. Why would I lie? Seriously, before I ever wrote books, and published them, people would be like, what's your real name? I'm like, I don't know what you're asking me. That's my name. And I would say I'm married and Hub's last name is Berry. That's just how it went. I don't know what to tell you people. Yeah, I like my married name better. But yeah, so murderers, I mean, listen, I have friends that only use a pen name for everything. And I have one friend that has 3 pen names because she writes contemporary romance under one. She writes paranormal, fantasy romance, and sci-fi romance under the other. And she also has a completely different pen name for her erotica. So they're all pen names. None of them are her real name. And I know a lot of romance authors, especially, who don't use their real name in any of their work, which I'll tell you, in the last few weeks, I've had a few moments where I really had a small ounce of regret. Like, I'm not going to go change everything now because, my gosh, it took me a really long time just to get my little 1,600 followers on here, you guys. But I've had a few scary moments where I really was like, maybe I should have used a pen. So, even though I talk about how I don't use one, that is in no way a shot at anybody else. Like, please do what is best for you. Especially if it might bug you that people might say weird things and stuff. Things are just weird in real. That is not lame. You're such a weirdo. My name is a month. My parents also insisted that it had nothing to do with the fact that their birthdays are, and I'm like, okay, y'all are just really unoriginal. Sometimes I don't like how searchable I am. Yeah, so the thing is I think even if you use a pen, if somebody was really insistent, I think they could somehow track you down, because even when you use a pen, like, you still have to have your real name on some stuff, you know what I mean? So I think for the right crazy person, it's not going to completely help you, but it is a little bit peace of mind for some people. And some people do it just because they don't want their friends and family to know what they're writing. Like, especially like my erotica writer friends, like, they don't tell people that they're writing the really good smutty smut, so they write it under a pen and throw it up. I mean, that's the thing. The right kind of crazy is going to find you no matter what you do. See, like, people who work for the government, if you work at a school and you write romance, even clean romance can get a bad rap, which is dumb. It's dumb. People who talk crap about romance are the worst kind of people. But yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons to use a pen, and the thing is you don't have to validate your reasoning for using one or not using one to anybody. It's not their business. It's your business. You do what you want. If I know that it's you and you have a pen name, I'll still support you. Like, I don't care. But yeah, that it's such a touchy thing because you really have to decide what's best. And I'm like I said, I've had a few moments where I was like, man, maybe I should have. But even my husband, I had my mother, my mom, and my husband telling me just to use my name. And the work that I do doesn't matter if I use my real name. So, and a lot of my friends do work at my kids' schools. There's a ton of teachers that I'm friends with around town. So everybody at the kids' school already knows that I'm writing the smutty smut, so it's fine. And that's the thing. So even though my mom was the one who said, like, oh, my friends won't believe that it's me. And I had, like, when she said that, something snapped in my brain and I was like, will my friends believe that this was me if I tried to tell them if it wasn't? You know what I mean? Like, how would you prove that? Which, I mean, my friends are really cool and they know that I'm not a liar, but you know what I mean? Like, random acquaintances, let's say, that would be hard to explain, I think. And I don't know. Again, I don't have a reason, or I didn't feel like I had a reason to use a pen name. But I did have a little inkling of regret. So I would just say, if you haven't published a book yet, maybe really think hard about all the reasons why you would want to use a pen name before you decide on doing it or not doing it. I will say this, if I ever write erotica, I'll use a pen name for that, just because I definitely want those things separated. Hey, what's up? There's so many people on right now. I love it. This must be a good time. You're brown. See, and then that makes sense because especially like Indian families, they're very like, you can't do that, you know. So I can see how it would be super important, because I think using a pen for you would probably be a lot easier than trying to explain the shifter romance situation. So I get that. But the thing is too, is like, I have a totally different family dynamic. We are not conservative, you know, like I don't know. My parents are really cool. They're very accepting of me and my crazy, even when they don't 100% agree with the things that I do, they still support me no matter what. So I don't know. It just wasn't important. Like I said, for work, it doesn't matter. And my husband thought it was cool that he could tell people that his wife writes books, you know? So, oh, yay! I have to get you to read something. I have the perfect little excerpt that I want you to read from my new book, but I'm like, would you stop biting me? My cat is biting me. Like, he's obsessed. Oh my goodness. My family really is amazing. My husband especially, like, he's the reason I wrote to begin with. I've been married almost 20 years, which I'll be 40 in February. So I'll have been married to him half of my life. Isn't that crazy? But I was writing when we met, and I wrote, you know, just throughout the years. And before we had kids, I wrote a lot, but I never finished any books. Like, I would start some. I had like 6 manuscripts started and didn't finish any of them. And that was back when we had a desktop computer and the tower was in the floor. In 2005, there was a really bad Hurricane Dennis, and we lived in this little apartment, and it was in a floodplain. And there ended up, it was still hurricane force winds when it got all the way up to North Georgia. And we had 4 feet of flooding in our apartment. So my computer died. And I, of course, didn't back anything up. Lesson learned, you know. My wedding gown got destroyed. My husband, the people that worked at the apartment place, they went and saved my dogs. We had 2 dogs, and they were crated during the day. So they went in, got my dogs out, put both dogs in one of the crates for us, and then used the other crate to go rescue other animals in the complex, because they knew that we had the 2 really big crates. And the guy that was doing it had enough sense. My husband he's a musician. That's not his job, but we have a piano, and he has like 5 guitars. Some of them are acoustic and a couple are electric. And he had them sitting there. The guy had enough sense to put them up on the bed, because that was the highest place. He couldn't take them all with him, but he put them as high up as he could. And the water came just below that top mattress. So his guitars all was saved. And our doggies were saved. And that was fine. So that was the most important thing. This little psycho kitty right here. Hold on. Okay. Sorry. I have to swipe those things. I can't deal with that. But yeah, so I lost all of those stories. And then, so for a while, I didn't really write again. We started having kids, and which we started having kids, so I got a whole tribe in here. So we had our first child in 2007. I worked full time. I did try to go back to school to finish at one point, and again, if I would have had time, if I could have done it all over, I would have done it when I was 18 and fresh out of high school. But we just, life happened around me, and I got a really great job, a really great corporate job, but I worked like a dog for that company. So we were just busy all the time, and I just didn't make it a priority to sit down and write. I barely had time to read, but my husband, I love James Patterson's Women's Murder Club books. So anytime a new one came out, he would get it for me, and he would literally like just take my laptop away and be like, you need to just sit and read for an hour, you know? Because I love those stories, which I don't like a lot of gore and stuff, but I don't know. He does it to where it didn't bother me, I guess, if it makes sense. But, because it's called the Women's Murder Club, but she was a cop, you know? And yeah, he's very good about taking care of me, even though he works way more hours than I do and has a much tougher job than I do, but he still, like, makes sure to take care of me. Like, he'll text me. He texted me a little while ago and said, "Have you eaten yet today?" And at the time I said, "Mind your business," because I hadn't eaten anything yet. And then I went and made something to eat really quick. And I was actually shoving food in my face. And one of my friends messaged me and was like, "Hey, you haven't had any videos. Are you okay? Are you alive?" She's like, "I feel like you're alive because you commented on one of mine, but you haven't put anything up yet." Oh, he's amazing. Oh, so that was so I didn't write for a few years. And I kind of had just given up. You know what I mean? Like, you just think, oh, it's just stupid dream, whatever. Like, everybody wants to be an artist or writer, a musician, whatever. You can do it for fun, and then, you know, you have responsibilities and the kids and jobs and everything else. So you tell yourself that it's not going to happen, right? I mean, we all have done it. Well, I got really obsessed with Outlander the year before last, right? I found the show before I ever knew about the books, okay? My husband and I binge watch Outlander. Now, and he binge watched it with me because, one, there was fighting. Two, I have watched all of the Star Wars and football for the last 20 years, okay? I did not give a crap about football until I met him, and he's really obsessed with all sports, Atlanta-related sports. So I've learned a lot about sports in 20 years. So when I want to watch stuff, he watches with me. So he enjoyed the fighting, but I have an inkling that he also liked Katrina Balfe with her nakedness. I'm just saying. Because listen, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say James Alexander, Malcolm McKenzie Fraser. Okay? I'm just saying. Anyway, so I got really obsessed with the show, and I had binge watched it all the way through. And then, somewhere along the way, you know, I realized these are based on books. So then, of course, I had to go get all the books and start reading all the books. Well, then, once I got through that, I started researching Diana Gabaldon because she is the one who came up with all of this, right? And somewhere in my research, I realized she was 36 years old when she wrote Outlander. And I looked at my husband one day and I was like, "Oh my God, and of course he didn't give a crap, you know? So I was like, "Can you believe that this woman was 36? And he was like, "That's cool. That's whatever, you know?" And I was like, no, you don't get it. Because at the time I was 37 or 38. And I was like, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. Like, she was in her later 30s when she started this. And now it was like a collection of 20 or so, because she has all these little novellas. And all of these little spin-off books, you know, and some are like reference guides, you know, so she's got this whole collection, not just the main books, but all of these other little books. So she's got like this whole conglomerate of Outlander stuff, and she didn't start until her later 30s, and I was in my later 30s, and I was like, maybe I'm not too old for this, you know, and he was like, "Who told you were too old?" And I was like, "I don't know. Somebody, I'm sure. I don't know. That's what we do, you know?" And he was like, "You're never too old to do whatever you want." And I was like, And then I sat there and thought about what he said all day. And that night I looked at him and I was like, "I'm going to do it." And he was like, "You're going to do what?" Because of course he had forgotten about this conversation. And I was like, "I'm going to write a book." And he was like, "Okay, so write a book." I was like, "No, I'm serious. I'm going to write a book." And he looked at me and he was like, "Look at me, woman. Then do it." And I was like, I'm gonna. So I literally got my laptop up at that moment and I started typing this book. This right here. This is why I'm freaking out about this one. I wrote this one last year. These other two that I have, these I wrote in 2021. So the one I'm about to release tomorrow was written before those two. But yeah, it took me longer and it's a little bit different. But yeah, he told me to do it, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna, mister. Of course, he was just trying to be supportive. But, all along the way, he's been really fantastic. Like, when I wanted to do the conventions, one was really expensive. And he gave me a credit card and told me to put it on the credit card and that we'd work it out later. Because he knew, like, if I'm serious about something, I want to try to absorb as much information as I can and really learn all of the things. So he did that. He made sure that the kids were taken care of. Like, he works a lot of Saturdays. He didn't work this last Saturday because he's trying to go to a couple of the basketball games for my daughter. But most Saturdays he works. Well, he took off that weekend of that conference so that I could be down here uninterrupted for 2 days, because it was a 2-day thing. They have all these classes and stuff, and then they do speakers and things later on in the day and that kind of stuff. So he took off work so that I could attend that. And then, he knows, last night I wanted to get some words in. So lunch is over. I gotta go. I love you big too. Enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me on your lunch break, by the way. But yeah, so he's super supportive. And then I took my mom out to lunch one day before I was publishing Served. And I was like, okay, so I've been doing this thing and I wrote some books. And of course she was like, oh yay, you wrote books. That's so cool. And I said, but I need to tell you something about the content of the books. And she was like, is there murder? And I said, no, none of that. I said, but there is some adult time. And she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I don't want you to be upset, or I don't want you, to have to explain anything to your friends. And she was like, my friends all read smut, so it's fine. And I was like, okay, are you sure? What about your brother, my uncle? And she was like, yeah, I don't care. And then I said, I was like, do you want me to use a pen name? Would that make you more comfortable? And she was like, why would you use a pen? And I was like, so that, I don't embarrass you. And she was like, how would anybody believe that you wrote these books? How am I supposed to tell everybody that my daughter is an author if your name's not on it? And I was like, okay, that's what you're worried about, but okay. So that's why I don't use a pen. So funny story, last night I finally got back into my rhythm, and I was doing some sprints, and I've always said I would not use the C words in my books, but I always also would follow it up with, I never say never, because things change and people change. And isn't it funny, if I hear a northern person, I have a friend who's from Boston, and every time I hear him talk, I repeat everything he says mockingly, because it's just funny to me because it's so different. And he knows that I'm not being mean. It's funny to me. And he makes fun of my southern accent. He says I sound like a hillbilly, so it's same. But the other day, I was asking about a beer, and I said, because I was thinking about yes, I love it though. It just sounds so wonderful to me. She raves about me to her friends. See, that's, mom's the best. But, I was asking about Boston beers. See, I just sounded like it. And I said, would you order a pint of Sam Adams, or how would you order that beer? And he was like, a pint. He said, you could just ask for a pint of Boston Lager. And I was like, so would that be a pint of Boston Lager? And he said, yes, just like that. And yeah, no R's. So, but yeah, we were just cutting up. But so when I was still working with his wife, and because that's how I know him, and she's from up there, but she does not have that accent. She's more, her dad was Dominican Republic and her mother's Portuguese. So she's got more of a Portuguese kind of accent. Even though she grew up in Boston, she actually grew up in New York and then moved to Boston, and that's where they met. But he's like a masshole, if you know anything, if you know what I'm talking about. And he says that proudly. So, but I used to cut up with him so much that then all of a sudden I would start sounding like him if we had been hanging out over the weekend, with him and his wife and stuff. So it's funny how when you kind of say that you won't do something over and over, then all of a sudden it happens, right? So I kept saying I was never going to use the C words in my books. I was writing this scene last night, and the word cock just came out in the words, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? But I read the sentence back, and then I went back a few more sentences, and I was like, let me just see. But yeah, so for the continuity of the story and the characters, it kind of fits. So I'm thinking I might leave it. So yeah, this is just another reminder to never say never, because I said I wasn't ever going to use that word in my books, and then there it popped in. But see, now I will never say C-U-N-T. I don't like that word. Blech. Just blech. I don't know. Which, my friend right there has a funny story about that, and I can't unthink it anymore. Oh, that was hilarious. She was going to do a TikTok about it, and I hope she does, because I think that everybody would get a really good kick out of that. Yes, you. She told me the funniest story about that word yesterday when she was in New Zealand, I guess. I can't think of... now growlers will never look like that. They will look like that after this story. So everybody else should have the same problem. It's just I shared the video of the guy saying, if you don't put your butt in the chair and write words, then you can't complain or whatever. And everybody was like, I feel attacked. And I was like, me too. That's why I posted it, because if I have to feel this way, everybody else does too. That one is commenting. See, she was in New Zealand when said story took place, Kate. So yeah, that makes sense. But so you know what I'm talking about. And she told it to me yesterday, and I about died. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna look at a growler the same. And then I kept thinking of a cat going rawr, I don't know. It was hilarious. But so yeah, I somehow inadvertently put a C word into my book after I said I wasn't going to do that. But again, so these characters are a little older. They're not old. They're in their early 40s. Do it. So these characters are in their early 40s. They're so much more experienced, I guess, in these things. The communication level's probably a little bit good. I'm slowly going to the dark side. And my other books, I have open door scenes in all of my books, but there's not usually a lot of dialogue except for their basics, oh yeah, that feels good, or whatever. Take me now kind of stuff. But this one, there's a little bit more dialogue. I think I've said a few times as I've been writing it that this one is getting a little bit steamier than my other ones. But again, these are just the characters, because even this one for tomorrow, these characters are in their early 20s, and the other two books, they were in their late 20s. And I don't think this book is as steamy as the other ones. My friend who's on here, she was one of my beta readers, and she and 3 other people told me that there's one scene in particular that I cannot say that this book is not as steamy as the other ones. And I was like, really? Because I just don't see it. I think the other ones are. But I guess everybody will interpret the story how they want, and if you like the steam, that's great. Seriously though, okay, I have this one excerpt, but I don't want to have you read it on a clip, because it can be a potential spoiler. So I don't really know, but I'm seriously going to send it to you and be like, I want you to read this. I don't know how or why, or if I'll be able to actually talk you into doing that. I'm saying these things like you're just going to blindly do it for me. But there was this one part, and Martha, if you know, it's the letter. There's a letter, and I think that read in her beautiful accent would be perfection. I want to hear it so bad. But oh, I love you. I'm really so nervous about this one tomorrow, you guys. Because again, this is the one when my husband told me basically to get over myself and just write. Because I was like, oh, well, Diana Gabaldon was in her late 30s, so maybe I'm not too old. This one I've worked on so much longer than the rest of them, and it's a little bit different than the other two because the other two are like contemporary romance. And this one is, there's some paranormal aspects to it, which there's no vampires or creatures or things of that nature. Like, I know a lot of people, when you hear paranormal, you think creatures. It is the book of my heart, Kate. Like, so that is part of the problem. And, cause I'm like, I love it. But usually if I love something, not everybody else does. You know what I mean? It is like, I really poured a lot into this one. And I've worked on it so long too that I'm like, everybody's gonna hate it. Everybody's gonna hate it. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but we'll see. It's a smidgen longer than the other two as well, but it's still not crazy long. But there's a little bit of paranormal stuff going on. And there's a lot of suspense. At least I think there's suspense. Again, so Martha's on here. If there's not suspense, just tell me to stop it, but I felt like there was some suspense in there. I will say some of her notes were like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. So obviously there's a little bit of suspense. But the paranormal stuff is not creatures. It's a little bit of enchantments and stuff like that, I guess. Hard to explain. I just don't want people to be disappointed when there's not creatures in there. You know what I mean? But let's say like a little bit of enchantment, a little bit of magic. There's a lot of backstory that you kind of learn along the way. And just so people know, there is a ton of dream sequences in this book. So please don't hate me. If you hate dream sequences, this book is not for you because like almost every single chapter has a dream sequence. So, but it's so relevant to the story. Even like the hook line that I had was, Freud said dreams reveal repressed desires, but could they actually show your past realities? And then I also quoted him on the interior. Dreams are constructed from the residue of yesterday. So, and that's also Freud. There's a lot of dream stuff in here. Wait, does it in? No. So it was not all a dream. Okay. It's not one of those. I promise. But the dreams are super relevant to the rest of the story. And I can't explain because then it'll give it all away. But they're very relevant to the story. So, but I know some people get aggravated when there's dreams, but, again, it's literally 1/3 of the story probably. Like, not the dream itself, but talking about them and stuff. It's super relevant. But it'll all make sense as you keep going. And you'll get a little bit of information about it, kind of explaining them right off the rip, like in the first few chapters. So, you'll know. But I just don't want people to be blindsided because seriously, just like the pregnancy trope, like some people like really hate the dream stuff, which I don't like. Pregnancy trope's not my favorite. Like, I've been pregnant twice. Whoever said it was a magical time, bless you. I'm glad you had a good time. It was miserable as hell for me, but I have 2 beautiful children from it, so it's okay. But so like some people, like, you just like what you like, you know what I mean? I don't care for like cheating and stuff either. That irks me really bad, but like that's so rampant in so many books now. So yeah, see, it was not a good time. And people were like, you're glowing. I was like, that's sweat. That's sweat, Karen. Thanks. You know, I felt gross the whole time and I was sick, you know, the cheering. I'm like, you're not the one doing it. Shut up, you know. My youngest is 10 now. So, I mean, I'm far removed, but you can tell I was traumatized by the experience. Oh, cheating. Okay. I was like, yeah, people cheering you on while you're pregnant is weird. But no, cheating is not my favorite. I have some very strong opinions about that in real life. So, yeah. I got you now. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Mine's only 2. Aww. Little babies. Yeah. The things just get crazier, and like I thought that they would be less expensive the older they got, but that was a lie. Yeah, they're really expensive the older they get. So, but yeah, I have some really bad responses to pregnancy and labor and childbirth because I almost died giving birth to my son. So, not fun. Now, I don't tell people those stories when they're actively pregnant if I'm like sitting around with them. Like my niece, she was pregnant and, you know, she kept asking me questions and I would try to be as cool as possible, you know. But then my sister actually told her like, oh no, like she blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know, maybe don't tell her that. You're going to scare the crap out of her. And that might not happen to her. So there's no point in scaring the crap out of her when we don't know what's going to happen, you know. Don't make it worse. Don't make it worse. But yeah. So that's pretty much what I came on here to tell you guys is never say never, because cock accidentally ended up in my manuscript last night. But I think I'm going to keep it because it seems to fit. And reminder that I have a new book coming out tomorrow that I'm really nervous about, and I might retreat into a hole. The thing is it's funny. I always see people like freak out about release day. I've only had 2 other books out so far, but I will say for release day, like release day is not what really stresses me out. It's the week following release day when people start finishing the book. Because most people don't read a book in a day. There are some people who have, like, there's tons of readers, like, especially if you don't have like a normal like 9 to 5 Monday through Friday kind of situation. And so you can read like during the day when your kids are gone or whatever. Like I have some readers that told me they've read my book in a day, but then I have some friends like they have to split it up and do a few chapters a day or whatever. So it's not release day that stresses me out. It's that week following when the reviews are starting to come in and people start to message you. Like I get scared opening my messages because I'm just sure that one of these days, one of the messages is going to be this book sucked and let me explain to you why. But I love getting the good messages. So it's like, do I want to open it? I swear I'm a sadist though, because I check my reviews every day. I know that they say that reviews are for readers, but I'm like, you know, I read this book a lot of times. I had to edit it 567 times. So I read it. So I'm going to go look at the reviews, which is the worst possible attitude to have. And I know, but I cannot help it. So last time I checked Served, I think I was at 46 ratings. I'm so close to 50. Oh my God. What sucks though is I have had so many people tell me that they went to leave it and Amazon didn't approve their review. But I'm like, you bought the book or you read it on KU. Like, I don't understand. Like the people who buy paperbacks from me, I get it because they're so weird about reviews. They want to make sure that you're not friends. Like they don't want friends just going and leaving fake reviews basically, which I appreciate. Especially if people who don't read the book try to leave bad reviews just to you know what I mean? Like it's really sad, but there were people that literally will leave you a 1-star review and they haven't even read it. I revised on Goodreads and my review showed up. Well, that's weird. But yeah, some people, and then they take forever to approve it too. And I had an author friend who read one of my books and she really was like, she was trying really hard to leave me a good review. Like she basically left me an editorial review on my books. And she had to appeal Amazon to let her leave the review when she bought the book. I didn't give it to her. She just bought it to be supportive and read it, you know, which I've had so many people who did that. and they wouldn't let her relieve it. So, but she fought it and she got it on there. But I was like, listen, it's not that serious. Don't worry about it next time. Like, I appreciate you, but it's okay. Like, please don't lose sleep over a review for me. It's okay. But she was just really super nice and trying to help me out. They do own Goodreads, so I have an Amazon account. My husband has our like household Amazon account, and I have a separate one set up for book stuff, which you have to be careful about. They don't want you to have two separate ones, but again, I've never been attached to that other one, so fingers crossed that I don't screw myself. But technically you're supposed to not use a separate one. But again, my name has never been on the other one, so I'll leave reviews sometimes through that account. But I've gotten to where for like other authors, I am scared to do it. So I'll go to Goodreads and BookBub, and some have there's tons of these review places now. But Goodreads and BookBub are like the two bigger ones that I'm aware of right off the top of my head. And I'll go there and leave reviews and then do video reviews, which some people are confused about my reviews. I've had a lot of people reach out to me to ask me to read their book and like offer it for free. And I was like, that's cool. I appreciate you thinking of me. But the books that I read and review are because I went and purchased them because I thought that the book sounded cool, or I really liked the author, so I wanted to support them. And then once I got in the mood for that kind of book, I picked it up and read it. And I leave the reviews because I like it. There's been plenty of books that I read that I didn't care for, so I don't talk about them. I don't leave bad reviews. So I was like, that's so weird. And I was like, oh my God, do they think I'm like a bookstagrammer? That ain't me. Because I barely have time to do what I do now. And a lot of the books that all of the books that I've reviewed for Rebecca are because she has them on audiobooks. There's two books that she didn't have on audio for her Arter Creek series because they're the two newest ones. And they have to go through their own separate production. And there's a couple that did the narration for that because they're husband and wife team. And they're so good. Oh my God, the narrators are hot. But they had a baby. So production on that series got behind because they had a baby and their husband and wife team. So it's kind of a teamwork situation. But I really wanted to read one of the stories, so I did download it, and I had to read it in the car. Like when my husband was driving us places, I would take my Kindle and read it in the car because I really wanted to read it. But I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. Like I could probably be reading right now, but I also wanted to come on. I'm trying to make sure I come on and do some videos every day, and I wanted to do a live today because I have a book release tomorrow. But what really sucks, I also have to work tomorrow, so I won't be able to do a live tomorrow, at least until evening time. So I wanted to come on today. Plus I had the funny story about cock. And yes, I have said that so many times because I just want to say it a bunch of times. So it's such a struggle because my TBR is insane. And now I have friends, like I love them and I just love them on here. So I'll go and download their book. So they're getting their little monetary amount from me, which isn't a lot because it's an ebook, but I figure like at least I can buy a book and support them, and like Amazon will see that they've had a purchase. And I really want to read them so that I can leave these reviews, but unless it's on audiobook, it's just really hard for me to get to it because I can do the audiobooks while I'm driving or when I am working. Like I used to listen to the radio while I worked, and now I listen to smut audiobooks. So I need to speed up the pace. I will say this about Rebecca's Etheria's Earth collection, they're thick books. They're very long audiobooks. That's it. So it takes me like a week to get through them because they're like 10 hours. So yeah, I need to speed them up because her narrator is amazing on that too. She has a different narrator for that, and he is amazing. But that's the thing. So he really some of the words are drawn out. You know, some of the scenes are a little drawn out because they're supposed to be. But yeah, if I could speed it up, that would be cool. Because that's the thing, if I sat down and read a book, I could read it much faster than the audiobook plays. But it's just hard to sit down and read because like I don't have time just to sit down and read. But like I'm always in the car, you know? So I can pop it in. I just have to watch when my kids are walking up to the car. Because one time my kid walked up to the car and I was listening and I wasn't paying attention to him walking up to the car. That was interesting. And in my panic, you know, the smart thing would have just been to turn the radio down, right? But instead I picked up my phone and tried to close out the app. So yeah, I'm sitting there. Canceled that call. Sorry, somebody was trying to call me. So I'm like furiously trying to open the app. Of course, I can't get it to open. My password won't work and I'm freaking out. And I'm like, on hindsight, I was like, I should have just turned it down. Just turn the radio down, April. Oh my God. But like he's 14, so and he acted like nothing happened because he's smart. But so, and there's been a couple times, like I was listening to a playlist, like I have playlists on YouTube for different books, like, cause I get just different vibes, different ideas when I'm writing. And this one song came on, and while it's really good for a romance book, it wasn't cool to be listening to it with your 14-year-old son sitting next to you, that kind of situation. So that was also, but it was like, it was playing and then it got really intense and I didn't want to be super obvious and change it, and he didn't say anything. So it was like this weird, awkward, like he didn't look at me, I didn't look at him situation, because I was like, will it be worse if I turn it off? Because like then it'll be obvious? Or should I let it go and just sit here and listen to this song with him sitting next to me? So yeah, so many weird things went through my head. Like when they're small and they hear the songs with the bad stuff, you don't think about it as much because you're like, they don't understand. When they're 14, you know they understand, and you're like, oh crap. So yeah. So like for all of my friends with little kids, it doesn't get easier. It gets worse. I'm sorry. That's why we have things like wine and whiskey and White Claws and whatever else you like. So, because yeah, it just gets more interesting the older they get. That's why I need Botox. I'm finding this out. I'm serious. One day, I am really bad about, like, I will run and just open their door because, like, I'm the mom. Like, I'll check his phone and see what history he's doing. I'll go in there and see what he's looking at on the internet, that kind of stuff. And I'll barge in to catch him off guard. And my husband told me not long, like, before he went to high school, he was like, babe, you can't just barge in on him anymore. And I was like, I'll do what I want. This is my house. And he is a child. And he was like, he's a teenage boy. That is not the same. And I was like, how am I, like, I can't give him notice if I'm coming in. What if he's looking at something he's not supposed to look at? He was like, what are you going to do if he is looking at something he's not supposed to look at and you barge in on him? What you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't get it. And he was like, what if he's looking at naked ladies? What do you think he's going to be doing in there? Do you want to see that? I was like, I meant like something totally different. Oh my God. I was like, he's not going to look at that stuff. And he was like, babe. And I was like, you mean my baby boy? Oh my God. He said, he's told me so many things, like, because I'm a girl and like I grew up with a sister, you know what I mean? And yes, he told me, he said, babe, if you don't want to see something that you can't unsee, knock first before going in. And I was like, okay, maybe you're right. Okay. He was like, you can still search his history later. He was like, but you need to stop barging in on him. Trust me. And I was like, okay. So now I don't barge in on him anymore. Because yeah, my husband was like, you don't want to know what's going to be on the other side of the door. So many things with boys. Oh, I lost my crap the other day. I was in the best writing sprint ever. Okay? But my daughter doesn't have a phone. She has an old device that is an Apple product, but it's not a phone. It's like one of our old phones, so it doesn't have data on it. But she can hook it up to our Wi-Fi. And she gives out my number, and so everybody who calls her is really calling me. So the calls come to both of our devices. So yes, I get a ton of text and phone calls from these little 10-year-old kids, and it drives me bananas. But I am adamant that my kid will not have a real phone, at least until they're both in middle school. Like, we didn't get my son a phone until he went to middle school. So I refuse to get my elementary school child a phone. So she has to go through me, basically, to have that device. And that way I can see everything that's happening. I know who she's talking to and what they're saying to each other, right? So the other day, my phone rang, and I'm typing. I look over, though, and I was like, that's weird. I don't have that number saved. And I was like, it's probably a telemarketer, and I'm in the middle of a good smut scene, too. And then I get a text, and it was like, hey. And my daughter didn't say anything, so I was like, so I stopped my sprint while the timer was going, which pissed me off to begin with. And I text back, and I was like, who is this? And the response was the guy from Fortnite. My daughter is 10 years old. So when this person said the guy from Fortnite, I lost my shit. And I was like, oh, really? Do you know that my daughter's 10 years old? And I'm crazy, and I'm not afraid to go to jail. So you need to check yourself right now. And he was like, I ride her bus? And I was like, do you now? Because you just called yourself a guy. There are no guys on the elementary school bus, okay? There are little boys on the elementary school bus. And this is all in a text message, okay? And I was like, what is your name? And so he gives me a name, and he was like, I swear I go to school with her, and I ride her bus, and this is the number. And I was like, oh, so you're stalking her now, And I mean, so my husband looks over his shoulder because he was playing a video game, because I'm very animated all the time. Like, this is me all the time. So I was getting really upset, so I'm like, and like making sounds, and my husband was like, calm down. And then she had stopped playing, I guess, and saw all the messages, and she came in there mortified, and she was like, Mommy, that's my friend from school. What are you doing? You look like a lunatic. And I was like, I look like a lunatic? I was like, he said he was a guy from Fortnite. I was like, don't be giving my phone number to random strangers on the internet. And she was like, I didn't. He's from school. And I was like, well, he should know. The way you say things matters. He is not a guy from Fortnite. He is a boy from your school. And so she was like, so now it's my fault that I embarrassed her, and she had to go to school today and face him. But I was like, he needs to learn today that is not the way you address people. So yeah, it broke my sprint. I did go back to writing, but I mean, I took a minute. I had to take some time because I had to regroup, because when you see that and you know that they're trying to talk to your 10-year-old daughter, I mean, I was like, I'm ready to go to jail right now. I'll do it. I don't even care. I will find you and I will go to jail. Because in my mind, it was a grown man that happened to be on a video game, because her and my husband, they both play Fortnite together. But there's other people. Like, Fortnite is this game where, like, people from all over the place, play. My husband is on there with them, though. And yeah, he backed up that there is a kid named after, like, that kid was on there, and that it is in fact a child because of the voice, Oh yeah, Mama Bear adrenaline, woo, through the roof. Like, I lost it. And my husband, of course, he's so chill. Like, I am crazy all the time, and he's very relaxed, very chill, and he's like, woman, what is going on back there? And I was like, furiously typing on my cell phone. But he was like, no, that's a kid, babe. And I was like, oh, well, they should know not to call themselves a guy, And he was like, but that's what kids do. And I was like, well, kids are dumb. So, so yeah. Maybe I can blame that on not getting as many words in this weekend, because I had to regroup. Like I stepped outside because it's been freezing down here. It's like, I know a lot of you guys are in the north and stuff, and so it's cold up there, but like for Georgia, being in the 30s all day is not normal. Like that's unseasonably cold for us. So like I walked outside and had to cool off before, like, and I went back in, I refilled my water, and I had to drink like a whole thing of water. Like I had to simmer down before I could sit down and write again, because otherwise Layla and Henry were about to have a really big fight, because I was hot and not in a good way. So yeah, but I'm making really good progress on that story, but I'm like, Valentine's Day is probably not gonna happen. You have to go get dinner. That's so weird. You're watching from the other side of the world. That's so cool. Enjoy your dinner. I'm totally going to send it. I'll send it. I want you to read it. But yeah, we'll have to do it a certain way, because I don't want to give any spoilers, because it's kind of important to the whole story. It's like right in the middle of the book too. And yes, I'm brushing my hair because it looks horrendous today. But go enjoy your dinner. I need to probably get off soon too, because my kid will get off the bus here in a little bit, and then I really do need to get some words in today, because like I said, tomorrow, even though it's release day, I gotta work, and then my kid has band practice tomorrow night, so there'll be a lot of stuff going on before I can actually sit down and write. And I would like to try to do some videos tomorrow, since it is book release, so it's just gonna be really cramped for time. So that's why I wanted to come on and do the live today. So just again, like before I wrap up, this book is in the bio, and you can pre-order it from Amazon, and that link's in there. Also, you can pre-order paperbacks if you want them signed from me, and I'll be sending out invoices to everybody who's already pre-ordered the signed paperbacks later on this evening, just because I'm trying to give everybody else time. Some people have like, oh, I forgot about that, I need to fill out the form. So I'm going to wait and do the invoices later tonight, just so everybody else who wanted to get in there can. But if you want a paperback just not signed, but you want a paperback directly from Amazon so that you can have it in like 2 days versus 2 weeks having to get it from me, this will be live tomorrow. But the pre-order is there if you do ebooks. It is going to be in Kindle Unlimited, so if you're a KU subscriber, I will do a reminder tomorrow morning so that you can go download it. But I did find out, if you follow my Amazon page, like my Amazon author page, every time I have a new release, you'll get a notification. So that way, if you are a KU reader and you miss like the pre-order stuff, like, because the people who've pre-ordered it, it'll just show up in your Kindle tomorrow morning. But if you're KU, you won't be able to download it until tomorrow. It's morning here. It's morning here. Where are you? So you must be Midwest or East or West Coast, because I'm East Coast, because it's like afternoonish here. But so good morning, by the way. Oh, I have a friend that lives out there, but she literally lives up in the mountains, and it is so hard for her to get a signal all the time. I'll text her, it'll be like a week before she responds, and it's literally because she just got my text. Because I've asked her, and she said it just showed up. She's like, but I just had to go to town. So she lives in some weird, obscure place out in the middle of some mountains, but it's beautiful. Like, I really want to go visit her. I just, like, right now it's not gonna work. There's so many things I want to do and so many places I want to go, but I don't have time, and these kids are always like keeping me busy with stuff, so it's just hard. My husband got me a cabin for the weekend for Christmas and my birthday situation. In a couple of weeks, we're supposed to go, and I found out that my kid has indoor percussion practice all day that Saturday, and my daughter has a basketball game, and I was like, wow, because we planned this a really long time ago, and I'm like, this really sucks, so I don't know what we're going to do, because they're weird about them showing up for this stuff, and I don't want to get them in trouble. But I mean, we've had this planned forever, and it's seriously like the weekend right before my 40th birthday, because he wanted to do something special for my 40th birthday, but I told him there was no way he could spend that much money on just my birthday. So it was part of my Christmas and my birthday. And then he still ended up buying me Christmas presents, because that's what he does. He's a gift giver. Like, I like to give gifts and he likes to give gifts, but I'm more like acts of service. Like, I like to cook for him and stuff like that. He likes to buy me presents. So I can't complain, because that's his love language, right? But and I'm so excited, because the reason he did it is because I kept making these comments. Like, I see all these writers doing like writers retreats all the time, where they go to cabins and they sit in the hot tub and they write for a little while, and then they chill on the deck and have fun and drink and stuff, but they get writing done in between and their little fun trips. So he got me this cabin, which he's gonna go. So I mean, we're gonna do some fun stuff too, and we're taking our we were gonna take our kids, because we take our kids everywhere. Like, we're those people. We take them with us. There's been one trip for our 10th anniversary. We went to Savannah for a few days, and my sister kept the kids. But, that's very few and far between. So, because that was for like our 10th anniversary or something, though. But like for my birthday, like, we do things as a family, so that's why we didn't even think about all their stupid activities, though. And I'm like, great. So I'm gonna email the teachers and stuff to find out, how that's gonna work, if they're gonna get in trouble, because I don't know if we can get our deposit back and change the dates. But again, it was for my 40th birthday. That's the weekend of my birthday. See, I want to do it with some writers. Like, so his intent is beautiful and glorious, and I love him, because seriously, he did it just because I mentioned it. He was like, okay, we're going to go. I want to get together with a group of writer women. Okay, it has to be women. Sorry, not sorry. But I want to get together with a bunch of writer women and like get an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, and we can write for a little while. We could do some sprints together, and then we can eat, drink, and be merry. Like, how much fun would that be, you guys? I want to do it so bad. But seriously, these kids always got something to do. They mess up everything. I love them, and we really short story before I go, my husband and I love my parents. Now, his parents, I'm not going to get into that, but I love my parents. But when I was growing up, we did not have a lot of money. I didn't do extracurricular activities and stuff like that. And I didn't get to go to college. There was no money. You grow up thinking that your parents have this fund somewhere. Yeah, that was on the movies, apparently, and for people not like me. So it was really important to us that if we were in a position to do so, we've worked really hard to get to a place where we can afford to let the kids do crap like basketball and band and all of this stuff. So as much as I complain about having to drive them around, I really love the fact that we're able to let them do these things. But it's hard to have friends and have a life, because you're constantly taking these people somewhere, and yes, why did we think that there was one somewhere? Now, I went to a little small school and got certified in something, but I had to pay for it. So I had to take out a loan. I didn't want to take out a big loan. So I went and got my little certification. It's not a degree. And I got a job. Now, again, I worked my ass off and ended up making really good money in corporate for a while. But, I had to work really hard to get there, because people walking in with a degree got paid twice as much as I did, even though I knew more than they did. So, and I tried to go back, but by then I was working 60 hours a week, and then I had a kid on top of that, and it was just, no. And at that time, we had this thing called the Hope Scholarship, so I had a little bit of help, but I still had to buy books and some other stuff. And the time constraints, I would have had to go to a 2-year college just to get an associate's degree for 5 years with the amount of classes I was able to take at a time because of work and stuff. And that was before they had all these online schools and stuff. But now, I'm almost 40, and honestly, I don't need a degree for anything. You know what I mean? Yes, the books. Oh my God. My niece told me yesterday that she just paid $600 in books and she has the Hope Scholarship. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sick for you. Cause she has a baby too, but she does a lot of online classes. Cause again, like I'm almost 40. We didn't have all these online schools when I was younger, and now I just don't care. You know, I have work that I make okay at. My husband's doing okay in his job, and now I'm writing books, and I do indie publishing. I don't have to explain to anybody my credit, you know, how I'm able to do this. You know, if you go trad, they want to know what are your accolades? Like, do you have a degree in writing, or have you been writing somewhere? And I'm like, I got nothing. So, and yeah, I mean, there's so many classes and stuff you can take, you know, I don't know. There's so many different ways around it. I'm like, I just don't care. Now, if you have one, that's so cool. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. And yeah, and I don't want to deal with the student loans, but so yeah, so my point is, yeah, I do complain about having to drive these kids places, and it sucks that it's really hard to find, because I would love to go on like a writer's retreat with some of the people that I've met on here. I think that would be the coolest thing on the planet. But it's so hard for me to schedule things like that because I don't know when they're going to have random stuff they have to do. Like my daughter's going to have playoff games, and like we don't have a schedule for that. And then his band stuff is pretty much all year. It like they got something even when it's not season. And he's doing indoor percussion and marching band. So it's like this never ending loop of musical stuff. So one of these days I'm going to figure all this out. He's a freshman this year. So I'm still like finding my way through this whole new high school is new for me too, because he's my oldest, you know. So once I get a better handle on things and I know what is expected in the next few months and the next year and stuff, then we're gonna do it. We are gonna have a girls' writers retreat, and it's gonna be so much fun, and I'm gonna bake y'all something while we're there, and we're gonna write all the words, and we're gonna drink a ton of stuff, and it's gonna be awesome. So anywho, I'm gonna run. I gotta do a couple of things before I get my kid off the bus, and then gotta get some words in. But just one more time before I go, this comes out tomorrow. And again, if you already pre-ordered a signed paperback, be sure to check your emails because I'll send those invoices later tonight. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here today. Idaho, I don't know about Idaho. I was thinking like the mountains somewhere, like cabin in the mountains with a hot tub and like lots of trees. I don't really know what is in Idaho. I've never been to Idaho. The farthest west, well, I take that back. I've been to Vegas, and I went to that side of Mexico, like under California. I went to Los Cabos, so that's not like, it's not in the Gulf, it's on the other side, but that's like, I've never been to the Midwest. Is Michigan in the Midwest? I drove to Michigan last year. That's what we are. You're Midwest? So I drove to Michigan, but that's because my daughter went with me. We went to go see her best friend that moved away. And that was super cool, mother-daughter trip. Google McCall and Sun Valley. Okay, hold on. I will forget, and I'm really going to look it up, so hold on. McCall and Far West. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, Washington is next door. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So that's super far. Because somehow I seem to have made a lot of friends on the East Coast. And I have a few like scattered in the Midwest too. Montana. So my husband would love to live somewhere like Montana. That would be his dream. He likes it cold and mountains and stuff. He would love to go there. But anyway, I wrote that down. I'm going to still Google it even though you guys gave me an idea. But I was thinking more like somewhere on the East Coast kind of situation. Oh, in Arizona. I've been to Arizona. And they actually have some interesting things out there. I don't know. Because see, I'm poor. I really need it to be in driving distance. That's part of my problem. And yes, I have a small little readership here, but it hasn't taken off to the point where I can like randomly fly places with money. Moving to Florida. See, Florida is super close to me. But yeah, like if I could drive there, that would be cool. Now again, I'm not opposed to driving kind of far because I drove to Michigan last year and I drove straight through on the way home because I was just ready to go home. But yeah, so that's the thing. So I don't know. Maybe we could organize a couple, like if you're on the East Coast, like here's a group, and if you're on the West Coast, then here's a group, and then maybe one day when we're all rich and famous, then we can meet somewhere in the middle together. I don't know. Because we will. We're totally going to be rich and famous one day. I'm putting it out into the universe. If we stay East Coast this summer, I'm so down. Yeah, okay, so I know you want to go to Arizona, but that would be really cool if you stayed on the East Coast because then we could hang out. Because that would be so much fun and so many shenanigans and probably so much trouble. Anywho, seriously, I gotta go because I gotta get my kid off the bus. But new release tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. As always, my inbox is always open, and I love messages. Even if you want to tell me that you think that the book is stupid, that's okay. I don't know what kind of response you'll get to that, but if you like it, I really love those messages too, though. So please don't ever think that you're bothering me. I don't give a lot of advice because I don't know what the crap I'm doing. So if you ask me for advice, the first thing I'm going to say is I don't know what I'm doing, but this is what I did, or I don't know. So, but yeah, I don't really give advice because I suck at all of this, but I will hopefully talk to you guys sometime soon. If not, I'll definitely be doing some videos tomorrow because tomorrow is release day. So have a really great afternoon, and I'll talk with everybody soon. Okay, bye.